Hi everybody. In this video, we'll take a look at how to use Visual Studio to write a program in C. Let's suppose we wanted to write program 2-1 as shown on page 11 in the text. First, we'd choose File from the top menu, then choose New, then Project. Now, depending on how you install Visual Studio, there will be several options for different types of projects. Notice that I've got Visual C++ highlighted on the left. For our class, we'll be starting an empty project, so I'll choose that option. Now down toward the bottom of the window, I have the option to name my project. Each project should have some descriptive name, so I'll just call this one Project 2-1. Below that, I can choose where my project files will be stored on the hard drive. I created a folder called My Programs, and I can click the Browse button and choose that folder. I want to make sure that the Make Directory for Solution box is checked, and then I click OK. At this point, Visual Studio creates a project, and that'll take a second, and opens up to show us the solution which contains this new project. Notice that the project name is the one we chose earlier. The next step is to create a file for our source code, and that's the C program that we will write. First, I right-click on the Source Files link. Then I choose Add, New Item. A window opens and I choose C++ file. As before, I can name this file, and I'll just name it the same as the project, Project 2-1. But, and this is real important, I'll make sure I put the C extension instead of the C++ one that is there by default. Then I click Add, and the new blank file appears as part of my project. It's always good programming practice to start a program with a heading that contains some basic information about the program. Here I'll just put my name, the date, and a short description of what the program does. At this point, I can write the code shown in the text. The one thing I want to add is another include statement, include standard lib h. This library header file will let me hold my program on the screen until the user presses a key. Notice that the text doesn't mention anything about this step or the system pause line of code. You'll see that in just a minute. If I left those out, my program would quickly run and then it would disappear, and sometimes that happens so fast that you think it didn't run at all. So now I'll write the program. There are several things I want to point out, especially to those of you who are new to programming. First, each C statement ends in a semicolon. Since this program has two statements, there are two semicolons. For now, you can think of a statement as a command you're giving to the computer. Then look at the rest of the lines of code in the program. They don't end in semicolons because they're not C statements. In other words, they're not commands. It's just as important to know where not to put a semicolon as it is to know where to use one, and that's going to take a little practice. Then check out line 13. Notice the system pause command that I mentioned earlier. This calls on the operating system to print a short message to the user. Then wait for them to press a key. In other words, the code on line 13 keeps your program on the screen until someone presses a key. Try running the program with and without line 13 and you'll see what I mean. To run the program, press the Control and F5 keys together. This starts up the compiler, and it will translate your source code into machine code. That is, unless you've made some syntax errors. If you have, you've got to correct them and then press Control F5 again. Let's give it a shot. The first line of output is the one we told to print out. The second comes from the system pause command, and it waits for us to press a key. So when we do, it comes back to our source code, which we can then modify or, do anything we want to with. That's pretty much it. If you have a question, please get with me.